Right, right. International Day of Zero Waste is observed on March 30th every year. But what does that day signify, and can we really achieve zero waste in our lifetime? Let's find out. Hello and welcome back to CSC's live chat. I am your host Sukanya Nair, and I have a very special guest with me today, and that's Atin Biswas. He heads and steers all work on solid waste management and circular economy at CSC. So thank you so much, Atin, for joining. And I'm really excited because it's also your first episode on the show. So really thank you for making time from your busy schedule. So I think we'll start from the very basics, that is the fundamentals. That what does the International Day of Zero Waste signify,
Well, first
and
of
how
all,
long has it been since
yeah,
you've been observing it? Sorry.
thank you
Yeah.
so much, Sukanya. Thank you for having me in the show.
Mhm.
I have been following this show for years, and today is my first opportunity to be a part of it. So coming back to your question, so the International Day for Zero Waste is something that we have been observing since 2023. So it followed a resolution in the United Nations General Assembly. The resolution was adopted in December 2022, and it was proposed by Turkey as a member. And since then, so it is probably so it's 2025. So this is the third time that we are observing this day.
Mm.
Um, so it's basically to draw the global attention to the agenda of waste. So when we say waste, many of us always, most of the time we tend to think that it is talking about waste like paper, metal, plastic, or glass, or food
Mm.
waste. But the idea of waste is a lot more and a lot bigger. It is about saving water or saving energy or saving natural resources, something
Mm.
that we use every day for everything that we do. So it is about raising awareness. Is it about reminding ourselves that we are living in a world where we cannot afford to waste anything and we need to preserve things for the future? And most importantly, this idea can be summarized as an initiative which has to come from every individual, every business, every government entity to
Mm.
primarily focus on how can we find ways to reduce generation of waste.
Right. While we are at it, can you also tell us what does zero waste really mean? And while before you explain, I also have a billion-dollar question for you, which is a follow-up question that
Yeah.
can the world really achieve zero waste?
Well, it's a very interesting question, and it's a difficult question as well at the same time. So let us first try to demystify the very concept of zero waste. For me as a practitioner, it is more like like a philosophy. It's like a lifestyle, and it should always be our dream to drive our behavior, to influence us, I mean, to motivate ourselves and motivate others through everything that we do. So, like I said when I was answering your previous question, so it is about positioning ourselves in a way that we don't use energy unless we need it, right?
Mm.
I mean, we can relate all these issues with everything that we do every day. I mean, if you think about human activities, right from the morning till the time that we go to bed, we continue to generate waste no matter what we do. We bathe, we waste water.
Mm.
We eat, we waste some of it,
Mm.
right? In the process of cooking food, we waste, fruit peels or vegetable peels. After we eat, there are some leftovers, so we waste that as well.
Mm.
We buy things that comes packaged in different materials like plastic, paper, or metal or glass, and we waste them after we have consumed it. So so the issue here is h- how do we find ways so that we consume more responsibly and we reduce the habit of generating waste in whatever we do. And let me just so it's basically a lifestyle. It's a goal that we all want to achieve, but it is not possible for any individual to achieve this goal, and I'll try to explain it slightly later. um So, like I said, the best way to manage waste or deal with waste is not to let it generate at all,
Mm.
right? So, if I give you an example in our lives, let's say I want to buy milk, but can I buy milk without the pouch,
Mm.
right? There are places or outlets where you can go with your own container and you can ask for the milk, and the milk is given to your container, so you avoid that waste,
Totally,
that
yeah.
that pouch that you can. Or let's say, um, it is also about thinking. Basically, the way that we observe this day, we do a lot of activities. We do community cleanups. We organize awareness campaigns with children in offices, in government establishments. We do a lot of things to kind of to observe this waste. And and we also have a very interesting program, which is called the Mission Life. So
Mm.
Mission Life was basically, it's something that India taught the whole world. Honorable Prime Minister, he presented the idea of Mission Life in his speech to the United Nations in October 2022, and the idea of Mission Life is very well aligned and very well syncs with the idea of zero waste. And your question was, is it really possible to achieve zero waste?
Yeah.
So if I break it down to individual level, at the level of the government, at the level of the how we are placed in terms of our ecosystem to deal with waste,
So if
the
we
answer,
say if it's a household, can we
yeah.
achieve zero waste in a household?
Um, Again, we can achieve a near zero waste situation,
Right.
but not exactly zero waste.
Of course.
Um, like I said, let me just tell you a small story. I was visiting Kerala. I was visiting a project, and I was taken to a household where I found that the household, it's a fairly kind of affluent or wealthy household
Mhm.
who can afford a lot more. So I found a very interesting thing in the kitchen. So they were producing. They had a very small portable biogas unit. It's made of HDP. It looks like a inverted water tank that we all have on
Got
the
it, right.
rooftop.
Mm.
So it was an initiative by the government of Kerala, and this family was using their all their biodegradable waste to produce biogas. And uh, and and the biogas, the technology is such that once you have consumed the gas, the raw materials that you basically use as a feedstock.
Mhm.
So it's basically the waste mixed with water. It forms a slurry, and the slurry is put into the digester, the container, and the gas comes automatically through the
Mm.
pipe. You use it in a burner to cook food, and then the slurry comes automatically with the pressure of the gas. So, and the slurry is a good fertilizer. So I told them that how it benefits you. He said it benefits us in a lot of different ways. So he showed me that he had a oven where he used this biogas. He said that I get about 20 to 30 minutes of gas every day. I use that first, and when the gas is over, then I switch to the LPG, and that is how
Mm.
I save at least 4 to 5 LPGs as compared to my neighbors
Perfect, right.
in the whole year. And then they had a very nice garden, because gardening is a very common practice across Kerala. I mean,
Right.
you're
Yes.
also from Kerala, so you know it much better than I do. And then they use that slurry that comes out of the digester as fertilizer for growing flowers,
Okay.
fruits,
Wow.
vegetables in the rooftop, in the garden, in front of the household. So if you summarize it, if they were not doing it, what would have happened? They would have disposed it off. Somebody would have come and collected it. Now that collection, and then they would have used a vehicle to transport it to somewhere. Then they would have treated it to make some product, and the product would have been something similar that the household is producing right there at the source.
Right.
So they have reduced the waste at source. They have found ways to reuse the slurry. So
Right.
in the end, there is no waste. So everything
Exactly.
that they produce, they have used or
Completely
reused in
consumed.
some other form. But
Right.
your question was, is it possible to achieve zero waste? Let's say, like I said, like I need to buy a lot of things for daily necessities. But when I go and buy them, if I
Mm.
don't want to buy it the way it is packaged, do I have an option to choose from? the answer is probably no in all the cases or in most of the cases.
Right.
Like I'm buying a toothpaste. The toothpaste comes in a tube.
Of
The
course,
tube is
right,
made
yeah.
out of some plastic material. So
Right.
there is no way I can buy toothpaste without by avoiding those materials. So yeah, we can certainly achieve a near zero waste situation just by developing good habits, sustainable practices, and be responsible consumer. But yeah, zero waste for households or it probably right now it is not possible.
All right.
Yeah.
There is something that you mentioned in between, and that is and again something that people don't think about on a daily in between their daily routine is what happens to the waste once it is collected from our household.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't care enough about it.
Right. That is exactly why observing this day and continuing with the momentum is extremely important. You know, everybody produces waste.
Mm.
All the people in the planet, they produce waste. Um, so there is a mechanism which is managed by the local government. So we have local government in cities. It's
Right.
called municipal administration or municipal government. We also have local government in rural areas called panchayats. So in India, the mechanism of waste management in the rural local government is yet to be anywhere near where we are uh, we are seeing the way it is being managed by the urban local bodies. So in the usually there are times allocated, usually in the morning.
Yeah.
So if I just explain the gamut of waste, so it can be broadly categorized into dry and wet, right?
Right.
So my waste is supposed to be picked up by an authorized waste collector from the municipal government in the urban context, because this mechanism is almost non-existent in the rural areas because of several reasons. Um, and then the dry and wet waste is supposed to be collected separately, but it can be collected separately only when it is stored separately. And this is where the question of segregation comes, which I'll try to address later on. And then the dry and wet waste is taken to different facilities, right? Because there are different treatment and processing uh, uh, protocols placed to deal with these types of waste, right? But it's very expensive because it also involves a lot of expenses on transportation. We need a good number of vehicles to be able to do that. And then the dry waste is farther separated because a dry waste is comprised of many different waste fractions like plastic, paper, metal, glass, footwear waste, domestic hazardous waste like mosquito repellents, like expired medicines, like broken thermometers or LED bulbs. So you name it. I mean,
Right,
it's
right,
very
right.
difficult to. I mean, and it also varies from one place to the other. And then that separate because eventually it has to go to a facility where it can be further recycled and fresh products are made out of it, and then it comes
Comes
back
back
to
to them.
us.
Right.
Now, if that mechanism exists, then almost I can say almost 85 to 90% of all waste that we've produced can come back, can be reused. It's
Right.
typically termed as circular economy. But if it is not happening, and then let me just conclude this part first. There are still some fractions, let's say sanitary waste, like used diapers or sanitary
Right.
napkins, or the dust that we accumulate after road sweeping, because cities have having huge length of roads and those has to be cleaned every day. And then we have drains which are cleaned and the silts are left on the side of the drains for
Right.
drying out. So these are called inerts. So inerts are basically, they don't react, they are not hazardous that way. So they are supposed to be taken to the landfill. And if you go by the definition, the law of India, the Solid Waste Management Rule 2016, this is how the landfills are supposed to be used. So landfills are supposed to receive only non-hazardous and non-reactive wastes, right? So there are still some waste, some rejects for which we either do not have a technology, or the cities are unable to reuse them for some other purpose. So, but 85 to 90% of waste can be processed, and there are many cities who are doing it. So even the cities, if they want to become absolutely a zero waste, like I said, it is a dream, it's a philosophy, it is a lifestyle, it is a practice. But then 100% kind of management of waste is probably not possible. We are not yet there.
Right. And then my final question to you
Yeah.
is, if you have to suggest three things to make, I mean, for us as citizens to make zero waste a reality, what will that be? I do understand that citizens can't just do everything. There's I mean, every, say, for example, government has a role to play. There are all sorts of different players involved. But if we have to do something as citizens,
Well, let me try and answer it in a slightly different way, which is connected to the answer to the question that you asked me just now. You know, the idea of zero waste has a lot to do with uh, with our buying choices, right?
right?
Today, a lot of our waste, which are not essentially food waste, which
Mhm.
cannot be composted or used for any natural process, um, these are designed to be used once. So this can be termed a single-use product or use and throw products,
Yeah.
right? So that is a big barrier in our mission to achieve a zero waste or a near zero waste status. Now, your question was, what can a household do, or what can a common person do, or common people do in our day-to-day life? First thing that we must do and we should do is practice sustainable consumption, right? So I mean, it is easier said than done. Let's say if you don't want to cook food at home, you probably order food from some online delivery
Right.
services, and that food comes packaged in single
Some sort
use
of
or
food,
use
yeah.
and throw materials, right? But then how can you avoid that? The best way to avoid that, to either cook food at home
Mm.
or go to a restaurant and eat
Get
there, so that you can avoid that waste. Now, this is again, it takes a lot of practice, it takes motivation, and it also takes a lot of investment to motivate, to incentivize, to influence human behavior. And this is something that I would say, taking the opportunity of this show, this is the need of the hour, because waste management is shared responsibility,
right.
right? So waste management is a responsibility of the local government or the state government or the national government. But the responsibility begins at where the waste is generated, the waste is produced, and that's us, right?
Mm.
So it could be an individual, it could be an institution, it could be a business entity, right? So that is where things basically begin. So unless we make it, so I'll just give you an example. Like, you can't blame the teacher in a school if my kid is not performing well,
Right, right,
because the
of
teacher
course.
is teaching, teacher probably is doing his or her job, but it
Yeah.
is my job as well to make sure that my kid is also being monitored and also
Right.
being supported, helped with.
Becomes a
uh,
community's
Right. So it's
responsibility in
it's a
that
it's
sense.
a it's a shared
Yes,
responsibility. It's a
yes.
parent's responsibility, at the same time it's a responsibility of the school and the teachers, right? So
Right,
that
right.
is how you can apply this analogy here in waste management as well. But like I said, we are probably not adequately investing on changing this human aspect of it, because it's a behavioral problem first of all. So
Right.
if we have been traditionally trying, not just in India but in different parts of the world, we have been traditionally trying to solve this problem through in technology, through innovative systems. Technologies are useful. Like, look at let's say Indore.
Mhm.
Indore has technology like producing bio-CNG from municipal biodegradable waste.
Right.
But the technology is so successful just because they can collect the waste which is separated at source. And here also I would like to share one small message, that the term segregation is very used very widely, very lucidly, and sometimes very loosely. And I
Mhm.
have a very different understanding and perspective, being a practitioner. The term segregation means that there's an understatement that you have to put everything in one place and then you have to separate it before somebody is coming to collect it. That is not
Mhm.
how it goes.
Okay.
We just need to learn to store them separately. So the Hindi of segregation is alag alag karna, but
Mhm.
the actual work is alag alag rakhna too. So instead of segregation, if we spread the message, do not mix, something that came from Kerala when they
Mhm.
started this campaign, my waste my responsibility.
Right.
And so coming back to your question of what can we do, first thing is definitely we have to be a lot more aware about
Consciously.
about
Yeah.
our buying pattern, our consumption pattern.
Mhm.
We are living in a very consumeristic world, and we are very used to this kind of ecosystem. There are electronic devices which are designed that it can never be repaired,
Right.
right? So once it comes to the end of its life or malfunctions, you just have to discard it. Even if it is under warranty, if you give it back to the brand, they will also dispose it of. They cannot
Right.
reuse it. So
Right.
that is something, I mean, reusable, repairable, those things needs to be brought back. It was there earlier, right?
Right.
But in the current world, it is gradual. It has reduced substantially. But by virtue of this international zero waste day and a lot of other movements, this thing
Mhm.
is gaining momentum. So which is a great thing. So coming back to how we can achieve zero waste, first we have to practice sustainable consumption.
Mhm.
Second, we have to learn not to mix wet and dry,
Right.
right? So I'm not using the word
I
segregate,
see. I
but I'm
like.
using rather don't mix.
Okay.
And the third issue is start home composting. The
Right.
reason why I'm saying this, that if I am producing, an average Indian household produces about 1 kg of waste every day. So I'm assuming a household of 4 to 5 people, right? Almost half of it is food waste. So I
Right.
told you the
Yeah. Yeah.
story of this household in Kerala,
Mhm.
right? So let's say 500 gram of this waste is food waste. It can easily be composted at home,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
If we can do that, because biodegradable waste is a major source of pollution, even if
Mhm.
it is disposed, uh, erratically anywhere, developing some garbage vulnerable spots, or it eventually ends up in a landfill. It emits a lot of greenhouse gases, which are very harmful. So practice sustainable consumption. Don't mix the waste, rather keep it in separate bins till somebody comes and picks it up.
And
And
home composting.
also start home composting.
All right. Thank you so much, Atin. It was really, truly an enriching conversation. I'm really glad that we made it for the first time and hoping that there'll be many more on
Of
the
course.
way.
Of course.
Thank you guys for watching today's episode. And if you would like to know more about solid waste management and circular economy, do check out our website, csindia.org, and do like our video and subscribe to our channel for more such videos. Until then, bye bye. You can wait for the next episode. We'll be coming back in the next week. Bye bye.